Okay. Okay, we can start now.
Good morning again to my Indian viewers and good evening to the US viewers. We are restarting our Entrepreneurship Talk series. I am Dr. Udit Chawla, Project Manager, IISER Bhopal. Let me just give you an introduction about IISE. IISE is Innovation and Incubation Centre for Entrepreneurship, which is located at IISER Bhopal, an institute of national importance that provides space, awareness, R&D facilities, networking, and mentorship for the success of startup and promotion of research and entrepreneurship culture. So without further delay, I would like to introduce Dr. Amjad Hussain, CEO of IISE, to further brief us about the speaker. Over to you, Dr. Amjad.
Thanks, Sudeep. Can you hear me? Am I audible? So thanks, Sudeep, for initiating the Entrepreneurship Talk series today. I welcome Dr. Keeper Sharkey for this lecture today, which is going to be streamed live among our students, and a lot of other participants from outside IISER Bhopal are also joining through YouTube. As Udeep mentioned, that IISE is a technology business incubator. We do provide space, mentorship, and research support to budding entrepreneurs who are mainly interested in starting their ventures in technology, as well as more into like taking it towards the commercialization. As we are restarting this Entrepreneurship Talk series today after lockdown, it's really a pleasure having Dr. Keeper Sharkey today as a speaker to restart Entrepreneurship Talk series. I welcome Dr. Keeper Sharkey for this lecture, and let me also formally introduce her. Dr. Sharkey is a quantum chemist who graduated with a PhD from University of Arizona. She also holds a bachelor's in both mathematics and chemistry from University of Arizona. And as a National Science Foundation graduate research from research fellow, she completed her PhD in chemical physics, as I mentioned, also from University of Arizona. During her academic career at University of Arizona, she published more than 25 manuscripts in peer-reviewed journal. And she has been a very well cited scientist in her own field. She has also been serving as a peer reviewer of multiple journals. She joined as a postdoctoral fellow at Washington State University in 2016-2017, and she was focused on deriving algorithms for learning physical properties of metallic hydrogen. She has also spent time in doing machine learning sequential marketing programs in the insurance and fintech sector. She is highly interested in applying her expertise of atomic and molecular quantum physics to design intelligence, as well as contributing to the chemical design of quantum computers. So after completing her postdoc, she decided to take a risk and start her own company named ORD L3C. And I'm sure we all are excited to hear her. And today she is going to share her journey, the share of challenges, the success story, how she thought of starting a company, and then how she pursued her dream to kickstart ORD L3C. Dr. Sharkey, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today and giving me the chance to share my story. I'm very excited. So let me share my screen. All right, so today I would like to talk to you about the global perspective of migrating from academia to starting a business. It's been a challenge and super exciting, and I want to give inspiration to everyone listening tonight or this morning or wherever you are in the world, and have you understand that it's not easy and you're going to face some hard times, but don't give up. So today, I'd like to make sure that we talk about what does it mean to become an entrepreneur from academia, and how to assess where you're at and where to focus to build your new skill set. So you're going to need to learn new things, probably from coming from a very technical and science-oriented background to learning how to start a business. You're going to have to learn new things from tax codes to business entities, and oftentimes you don't even think about those things when you're in academia and science. And then also how to take a global approach. We live in a world today where, you know, we have access to different kinds of technology that allows you to be all over the globe without actually having to go anywhere. Like today, I'm talking to this group in India, and here I am in the United States. So first, I'd like to talk about a little Japanese phrase for reason for being. It's called Ikigai. And Ikigai is comprised of, you know, 4 different categories in this Venn diagram. And it addresses what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. And oftentimes in science, especially in the pure academic world, maybe the world doesn't necessarily need it. Or, you know, maybe they do and you're not really good at it. And so you might fail out of the sciences and do something different. Or, you know, there's various placements for any one given person, but you want to be able to move to Ikigai where you have a little bit of overlap of each of these things. And for myself, I started out, you know, with an undergraduate getting a degree, a bachelor's degree in mathematics and chemistry. And, you know, I had some awards because I was publishing and I got a little bit of grants. And I could say that I really lived in the passion and mission side of the Ikigai diagram. And I had a lot of delightfulness and fullness, but, you know, I wasn't really making any money. I was publishing papers and, you know, I was getting a little bit of compensation for travel and maybe a little bit of tuition coverage, but mostly I was, you know, in school, paying for school and having to support myself. And then I went on and decided to get a PhD because I really loved what it was that I was doing and I didn't want to give up on my mission. And I started pursuing a PhD in chemical physics. And at that point, I was funded by the National Science Foundation for a graduate research fellowship. So I started to get paid a little bit. My tuition was covered at that point, and it helped, you know, relieve me of my teaching duties as a TA. And then I started traveling. I was able to go around the world. I went to Lugano, Switzerland, Oslo, Norway, and some other places around the United States to present my work. And so I could say that at some point I moved into, you know, what the world needed, right? Because now I was getting some recognition and they saw what I was doing was valuable. But at some point I had a little level of uncertainty, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to make progress in my science. I didn't know if I was going to reach the next level and discover something new or create a new algorithm that was going to be useful. And so things got a little stressful as I wanted to be able to do something valuable with my degree. And so I ended up graduating and moving on, and, you know, maybe I got really good at it, but the world didn't need it anymore. You know, and so I kind of bounced around the Ikigai diagram. And I became a designated campus colleague after I graduated, where I maintained a lot of my work. And I've been doing that since 2015. And in 2020, I joined the National Science Foundation I-Corps program, and it's Innovation Corps. And this Innovation Corps allows you to understand how to take your science and your product that you might have, a product or not, and take it to the next level to understand how you can turn it into a business. And so I started this adventure with National Science Foundation in 2020, and so it's been about a year going through that. And at that point, I was bouncing all over the place on the Ikigai diagram. I thought that I was making it, and then the next day I wasn't. And a lot of the times I felt like I was chasing my tail, and you feel like you want to give up. So you just have to always, you know, assess where you're at in this chart. So a lot of the times when you're in science, you want to change the world with what it is that you've done. And so how do you change the world? By taking your science and making it a business. I've found a lot of inspiration off of the Navy SEALs. They have these 10 steps to, changing the world. So I've kind of applied these to my life. And, the first is start each day with a task complete, and find people to help you and build a team and respect people. So I want to focus on these 3 things first, and we'll keep kind of going through this list as I move on with the talk. So for me, I make coffee every morning, and I sit down at my computer after I make my coffee with my first cup of coffee, and I write and I send my most important emails for the day. Getting these things off of my plate first thing is by far the most important thing you can do, because it just clears you and frees you up for the day. And then you organize and clean your desk and your emails, because you're going to have emails that have come in, and you're going to need to make sure that they're organized. And staying organized on a daily basis will help you understand what it is that you need to do. And then you need to keep a to-do list every day, and you need to update it and tackle the to-do list. I can say that there's a 2-minute rule. So if you can do it in under 2 minutes, you should just do it right now. If it's going to take longer than 2 minutes, you need to plan it out and understand when you can fit it in, but you always want to stay busy. And leave time to contemplate really big decisions. So you don't want to make snap judgment choices. You want to stay patient. Patience is a virtue, and know when to execute and decide. I can say that if you don't make a decision sometimes and you're not sure what to do, having decision paralysis can really, upset the flow of getting your business going. Okay, and so find people to help you and respect everyone. So in the beginning, I had to look at personal branding versus business branding, and I started my personal brand really early, back when I was in, doing my degree. I had a Facebook, a LinkedIn next, and then Twitter. And then right when I started the business, I made sure that all my business had all of these websites ready to go. And you want to build a website and make sure that you have contact information so people can reach out to you. And also, Google search optimizations are really important. You want to know what comes up when people Google you. And you want to make yourself Googleable, right? So you want to get out there, put content, understand how people can see you and your visibility online. This will really help with this global approach to being able to meet new people. Of course, you want to go to conferences and join groups, get involved, and eventually people will start coming to you, and they'll contact you and say, I really like what it is that you're doing, and I want to get involved. How can I help you? And it starts to naturally just come together. So I have a small team now, and I'm not going to go through each one of these people. Some people I knew before I started my business, and half of them I met after I started my business, and I met them online through, networking, and it's been really lovely. I can say that I'm potentially getting an intern student this fall through the National Science Foundation intern program. We're waiting to hear word on that. Her name's Arunima, and she's actually an Indian citizen, and she goes to the University of Arizona. So I'll be taking my first intern potentially this September. And when you do this, when you put yourself out to the world, you have to understand what your mission is. So for me, my mission is changing the world by solving non-deterministic polynomial time chemistry problems with quantum algorithms running on any suitable hardware, classical, hybrid, classical quantum computing, or regular, digital analog hardware. I don't care. I want to be able to solve really important problems. And when you do this, you also need to be able to create partnerships and get people to join you. So I've had to put marketing materials together. I've really had to wear multiple hats. I have to be an artist, a designer, website builder. Every little aspect of the business I've taken on myself, and you really have to learn these new skills, and you have to learn them fast. Okay, so I founded the business in December of 2018, and I am the sole owner of the business currently. I am applying for a National Science Foundation Small Business Research Innovation Grant for quantum information, subtitled simulations, and my application is due in September. I've been a presenter at Quantum Tech Congress in Boston and online in 2020, moderator of end user applications of chemistry pharma for Quantum Business Europe in 2021. I've presented at Optum United Health Group, and I've also gained a couple partners. Knowledge partner at Quantum Security Alliance, and I'm also a co-founding corporate member of the Quantum Economic Development Consortium in the United States, also a member of the Women's Chamber of Commerce. So going through all of these things, I had to take risks, and I had to step up when times were tough, and I never gave up. I wanted to. There was many times where I faced adversity and I didn't know what to do, and you know, I would cry, and I would cry to my friends or my parents, and I would say, I don't know if I can handle this anymore. This is too much. I should just go back and get a regular job, right? But don't ever give up. It's worth it. So by not giving up, I took on the National Science Foundation I-Corps program. I interviewed over 100 people, and these people were potential customers, partners, or investors. And really these interviews took place in a 15 to 20 week, or sorry, I interviewed 15 to 20 people each week for 5 to 7 weeks. And that's a lot of conversations. It's, 5, 6 a day, and you've got to get people on the phone, you've got to schedule their time. And really when you do this, it's challenging your own ideas and assumptions. Just because you think that you have a good idea doesn't mean that the world needs it, okay? And in order to understand what the world needs, you have to go out and listen to people and not tell them your ideas and try to get out of them what their needs are and what their pain points are, as people, put it. And really understand how you can take your idea and fit it into the needs of the broader populace. So it's basically the scientific method for a business hypothesis. You're going out and you're validating, with people your ideas. And if you get them to say what you think, then you're getting validated. And you might not get validated. So you have to be able to take the hard message home if your idea is not necessarily a good idea. Okay, so part of this is networking, relying on your relationships, and word of mouth. Always ask people if they know somebody else you can talk to, because likely they do, and an introduction is the best way to build your numbers and get more people on the call. And I did most of it through Zoom, just like this presentation today, so I was able to talk to people all over. We followed a method in the National Science Foundation I-Corps program that was created by Steve Blank. And he has got a website and many books and YouTube videos that you can watch on this. But basically, there are a certain set of categories that you have to sit down and lay out before you start talking to people. You have to understand your customer segment, the relationship that you're going to have with these customers, the distribution channel, how are you going to get your product to them, the value proposition, so what value do they get out of using your product, revenue streams, how are you going to make money off of it, key partners, who do you need, where you can offload some expenses because they do something that you don't do, key activities, what is it that you really need to be doing with your time, key resources, and cost structure. So I'm going to kind of show you what that looks like in a chart. So we have this chart here, and you kind of lay it out. And as you start talking to people, you're going to modify what you put. Now, I'm not showing you actually what I put down because we don't have enough time to go into those details, but what you start out with won't be what you end up with, and you will make changes after the 7 weeks go by and you've talked to over 100 people. You'll realize that maybe your customer segment really wasn't what you thought it was, or maybe you realize that you can get your product out there in a different way through a different channel that you didn't think of before. Or maybe you realized how you can build your customer relationship better, how you can build trust between you and your customer. There's many different things when you go through this and you're having conversations with people that will make your journey to starting your business that much more valuable. One thing that came out of my conversations is that I joined Amazon Activate program for starting a technology-based business. And so I wanted to kind of put that out there. So if you're in a technology-based industry where you need computing power and you're trying to build some sort of app based on this technology, Amazon Activate program is a really good way to go. And through these conversations, it's been challenging. You never know what's going to happen. Life isn't fair no matter who you are, and you'll fail a couple times. You'll have conversations that don't go the way you want them to go. You have to face down the bullies, and you have to pick up the downtrodden. The downtrodden are people that don't really know what's going on. They've need a little bit of guidance, and so you can guide them through your experiences. And so when you're talking to people, you want to be aware of what kind of conversations you're having and who you're having them with. A lot of the times you're going to talk to a decision maker who's going to make the final decision on the product that you're trying to sell. Or you're talking to a champion, somebody who's going to recommend it to the decision maker, or an influencer, somebody who can say the right thing that will push them to the next, purchase. Or you could be talking to the actual user. Maybe the user and the decision maker are not the same person. And so you have to know who these different people are and what the ecosystem is around your product. There's no one way to go about deciding what this looks like because every product is different, and the decisions you have to make around who you might be selling to is different. So I don't want to get into the details for each kind of product, but you have to make your own decisions here. And then there's the economic buyer. Sometimes they don't even have anything to do with, who you're going to be, dealing with, right? So, and then there's the saboteur. There's going to be the person who doesn't believe in what it is that you are offering, and they don't want to see your product take flight. Maybe it's because, they see some sort of a challenge, right? They think that it's going to disrupt the way they operate. Maybe they'll lose their job. Maybe they won't get a bonus if you bring your product to market. Maybe it means that what they like to do is no longer available. So you have to be very careful and understand who it is that you're speaking to before you go into these conversations. And then maybe you think when you go into these conversations, and at the end of the conversation, you've changed your mind and you realize that somebody wasn't who you thought they were. And you really want to stand up to these saboteurs. It's really amazing if you find a saboteur and you're able to convert them from being a saboteur to a recommender or an influencer. Not easy to do, but if you can do it, that's a really good win, because they're ultimately, at the end of the day, they're either going to make the deal or break the deal for you. So learning skills on converting that saboteur is really important. Okay, so some statistics that I have for my journey is that I talked to over 150 companies with a combined total of 139 people, male-female ratio. Not so many females, lots of males in the industry that I work in. 13 different countries, 5 different continents between Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, and Australia, and a wide range of ages. anywhere from people in their 20s that are still going to school all the way up to people that are almost 80 years old. But largely, mostly people 40s to 50s that were right in the middle of starting their own businesses or running a business or somehow, doing something that I could help them. So really, you want to balance these two things. You want to balance the Ikigai and where you are in this Venn diagram, and you're going to be moving around constantly, doubting yourself. And between each one of these goals of, starting your day off with a task complete, building your team, and your team might change over time, respecting people, know that life isn't fair, and understand that you'll fail often, take the risks, step up when the times are tough, face the bullies, lift people up around you, bring them along for a good ride, and never give up. You'll be successful at starting your own business. And so with that, I'd like to thank you all for wanting to learn more about Ode. And you can visit my website, odestar.com. And at this point, I will take questions and have an open dialogue with the audience. If there's anything we'd like to say, I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you, Dr. Sharkey. So we have Gopika, who is a representative of students' questions. So Gopika, would you like to have some questions from Dr. Sharkey?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, ma'am. And thank you for that insightful talk, by the way. I'm Gopika IISER, and I'm a student of IISER Bhopal pursuing BS in Economic Sciences. We have already gathered few questions from the registered participants. And the first question goes like this. What is the scope of data science techniques, such as machine learning and artificial intelligence in chemistry? Maybe they want to know how that can be helpful if they want to have a transition from academia to a techie field, especially in the field of chemistry.
The question is how many jobs are there? Can you repeat it?
Okay, I'll repeat it. What is the scope of data science techniques? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Such as machine learning and artificial intelligence in chemistry. In the field of chemistry, they want to know.
Well, yes. So we're always looking at wanting to understand new information about chemicals and energy specifically. So the idea is that we can learn new information and basically go from information to wisdom. Right? So we want to gain some kind of wisdom out of what we learn. So can the computer help us do that? Right? And then we have mathematical algorithms, right? So we want to have a really high level overview of the physics that's taking place. And can we hard code these algorithms into the computer such that we get new information out of the computer?
Wow, that was really nice. And we do have another expectable question that everyone in this meet should be want to know that thing. What is the acceptance numbers of researchers in industries and the expectations of hiring companies? Especially when we want to shift as a researcher, there might be some expectations or a cutoff, right? So those things they want to know.
Yeah, so I don't actually have all the statistics, but I can say that in general, companies are always open to speaking to you. For the most part, if you approach a company, tell them what kind of job it is that you're looking for and your skill set. Don't assume that they're going to just look at your resume, and don't just send your resume saying, here it is, right? And the more you can tell them where your skill sets align with what it is that they're doing, the better chance you have of being able to get a job. And that really comes down to, don't make them do the work, right? And really know how your skills can benefit that company and make yourself unique and stand out. And that will increase your chances of being able to land a position.
Yes, yes. Another question is from a person from a biological sciences background, I guess. Can biologists become entrepreneur, and how?
Oh, yes, a biologist definitely can. There's many applications in biology in terms of, what kind of products you can potentially create. My biggest suggestion is to just sit down at the computer, watch a couple YouTube videos, and really understand the differences between business entities. It's going to be different for each country. It's even different here in the United States in each state. I started an L3C, which is not offered in every single state in the United States. It's only offered in a handful, maybe 10. And it's a newer kind of entity. So you really have to sit down and do your research on what kind of business it is that you want to start, and go through that diagram that I displayed, the canvas, right? And understand who your customers are, where does your product fit, and that will help you make the decision on what kind of business entity you actually want to be.
That's great, quite great. Okay, and we do have another question. Maybe they would have typed the question just before you while you presented or something, but they want to understand the pathway from product development to product launch. And since you are a person who are into that industry, you might be knowing more about it, right, ma'am? Yeah.
Right. So in academia, you might not have thought about a product at all. I know I definitely didn't. I was a pure academic, and I was publishing papers. I couldn't have cared less about making a sale, and I'm definitely not a door-to-door salesman. So at some point, you just have to sit down and really think about what it is that you're working on and how can it benefit people and the world around you, and come up with that business hypothesis. Once you come up with that business hypothesis, you can then turn around and test your idea, right? And and by doing that, you test your idea by going out and speaking with people. It's the only way. And then product development, you'll find along the way what it is you'll need to do. And that's going to be very different for every kind of product. And you're going to understand, is there something that you can outsource, or do you need to create it in-house? And that will really guide your path in the product development. For me, I don't have to outsource too much, but the one thing that I did want to outsource was my computing power. So that's why I chose to do the Amazon Activate program. Other than that, everything I want to do is going to be in-house in my own company.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And another question is, what were the financial risks that you had to take while you had done that transition from academia to a technical field? Maybe while you have gone to the startup thing.
Yeah. So the finances. It was definitely a leap. So a leap of faith, as I should say. It's only a couple $100s to start an entity in the United States. So if you have some savings, you're able to do these things. Building a website, you can do minimally, which doesn't take too much effort. And I would say that overall, in the first year, I probably spent less than $1,000 US, and between what I needed to do and making sure that I had everything legal. Now, as you start to get more developed and you need more resources depending on what kind of technology you have. If you're actually building a device, you're going to need to do a lot more things. You're going to need to find funding quicker, probably. For me, being a software developer, I wasn't needing too much right away. And I cared more about my branding and my visibility into the world than I did more about the product initially. And then as I started doing these, the ICOR program comes with a little bit of funding and covers some business expenses and helps you really focus in on what it is you need to do. It covers some travel expenses so you can actually meet customers and see their business processes, how you can address their pain points and actually really make these on-site visits. And then, going for the SBIR, for the United States, the SBIR is for National Science Foundation is set around $250,000 in the first round. And then the second round is around $1 million for being able to do the product development.
Cool. And that's all about the questions, ma'am. And thank you for so much for that valuable time taking.
Thank you.
I have a question, Dr. Sharkey. Actually, we get this question often from students or even sometime, people who are in the job and they like to start their company, that, what are the detour options? Like in case if you fail, and how quickly can you fail? And then what are the options to go back, or, to sort of, still keep working? Would you be accepted by industry or academia if, someone starts a company and they got failed?
I think that the failure rate, you're going to have conversations and you're going to feel like you fail all the time. But there's always going to be a handful of conversations that are really successful. And there is always an exit strategy. So you always want to think, well, if I just can't do this anymore and I am going to pull out, then where am I going to go? And, I think that people really appreciate the hard work that it takes to start building a business. So, being able to put yourself out there and getting these new skill sets, I think makes you very attractive to a regular job, if you choose to go back to a regular job. And I don't think it looks as a bad thing that you decided to start your own business and try it. And then if you do want to go back into building the business, you can always say, well, I learned something again and I changed my mind. I can, redo this. Oftentimes, in the beginning of starting a business, you hold your current job and you continue to work that job while you build your business after hours. I didn't do that. I just took a leap of faith and said, I want to do this full time and make this my priority. So that's what I've done. I have taken a couple one-off contracts here and there and done some other work in the meantime, but mostly I've been focusing the last 3 years on starting the business. And, I would say that you always learn from the failures and don't let the failures discourage you. And just every day, pick yourself up, dust the dust off and move forward, right? And learn, how can I make that better? Because every time you fail is an opportunity for you to learn how to solve that problem. And I love solving problems, so it's really awesome when I fail. I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how to move forward.
Great, thanks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
With that, I think I would like to thank Dr. Sharkey once again to generously accept the invitation for giving a talk. It was really very generous of her. Let me just tell my Indian viewers, it's around about 11:15 night in US where...
Udeep, really quick, I think there's a student, Miriam, who wants to ask a question.
Thank you. I just send it to the chat channel. So I'm from Sydney. It's evening here already. I got the chance to know you through LinkedIn a couple of years ago when I was in Europe. Nice to meet you here again. I'm really happy to listen to your Zoom webinar today. I have a question. So I just decided to change my PhD to restart it, actually, because it was very fundamental. My background is in semiconductor, quantum physics, quantum optics, those kind of things, spectroscopy. I'm an experimentalist, by the way. And unlike you, I just don't like to sit in front of PC and do simulations and whatever, involves PCs. I like to go to the lab. I like to do something. I like to measure. And now I have decided to move to do a PhD because the one that I was doing was really fundamental, Bose-Einstein condensation, oh my God, of semiconductor physics, such as things. And the demand in market was zero for that. And I'm sure it will stay just like that for years and years. So I have decided to go to this biosensing things or energy matters, like using semiconductors. What do you think? Well, I have dropped out of my PhD and I'm in verge of starting another one. What do you think? Have I decided correctly, or is this going to be another failure? I'm really afraid to fail in this as well. So
Sure.
I didn't have my PhD from the previous topic. And if this one fails as well and it doesn't turn to be a business, wow, okay, I don't know what to do. I have lost 3 or 4 years actually.
Yeah, so it just goes back to the Ikigai diagram and understanding where you are on that. And for myself, I was always on a mission, or I had a passion for what it was that I was doing.
Me too.
Yes. And you always have to keep that alive. I think for myself, that's the most important thing. But doing something that the world needs is also important. And just because you may not see that there's going to be a use for bringing your product to market right away doesn't mean that that isn't the case. So I would highly encourage you to go through this process of meeting people, getting outside of your PhD. Oftentimes when you're in academia, you get really stuck in the lab and you get stuck doing your work, and you don't really go out and meet a lot of different people unless you go to a conference or something.
Really?
But I can say that when you actually take the time away from the lab and you focus on conversation after conversation after conversation and getting people on the phone. I mean, it took 3 months for me to wrap my mind around how I was going to get so many people on the phone. And you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something that you've never thought about before. I can promise you that. So don't assume that you have your hypothesis figured out when you go right into it. So that could be one of the biggest failures, is to just assume that you're right from the get-go, and just know that you could be very wrong. And so go through this process. Yes.
Okay, so I have tried as a first step to find a supervisor who is into business and industry. So I just get connected to him or her and then got connected to his networks as well. So that was my first assumption of starting this new PhD, and I hope I start from there. Yeah.
Well,
I wasted a lot of time in the lab. Oh my God, and I was going nowhere.
Well, thank you for your question today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too much. Yeah,
yes.
Thank you.
So is there any other question? I guess it's time to thank again Dr. Sharkey. Thanks again, Dr. Sharkey. It was really, really generous of you. And I was telling my Indian viewers, it's almost 11:20 there in US.
Yes, it is. It's late. It's almost midnight. Yep. Thank you, Udeep. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be live on YouTube with your group today.
Well, I believe that your talk was really excellent, and it will give guidance to the number of students. It will motivate them, and hopefully they will also be able to contact you, and you can give your guidance in case they need it. So thanks again, Dr. Sharkey. And I would also like to thank Dr. Amjad Hussain, IISER team, and IISER Bhopal to organize and be a part of this wonderful event. I would like to thank ICE Innovation Club and all the participants. This event would not have been successful without the participants. So no event is successful without the participation. And I see a lot of people have participated on YouTube as well. With this, I think it's time to take a break in this Entrepreneurship Talk series. And hopefully we will see you guys again in the series of future events. Thank you guys again. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Dr. Sharkey.
Thank you.